You know, I think anybody who's listening right now, if you want to set yourself up for success, ask yourself how much risk you've taken in the first 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years of your life. When I started talking about business on Twitter, every single comment in 2009 was, shut your mouth, wine boy, stay in your lane. I'm telling you right now, you want to talk about why so many of you aren't exactly where you want to be? Look deep inside yourself on what your expectations of others are. Ask yourself how much you've been succumbing to peer pressure. Like if you've always wanted to be cool to the popular kids in your high school, you're in trouble. The amount of people in here that have a job they hate and they buy things they don't care about to impress people they don't give a fuck about scares the shit out of me. Most people spend money on dumb things, which then forces them to do things they don't want. Long before I became the wine guy on YouTube and Twitter, I was a businessman. And I think if it's your truth, there's a very big difference between being an entrepreneur and a successful entrepreneur. I can say that I'm a football player, doesn't mean I'm gonna get paid to do it. And so I think the truth, I think it's unbelievably exciting for me. It feels warm in my heart that the thing that I've seen consistently, analyzing this every second of my breathing day for the last decade, has been whatever your truth may be, as long as it is actually your truth, you will always over-index. And people have told me to not curse on stage. You know, my agents who book, like, stop cursing on stage because we're losing so much money. I'm like, I can't. I have to be me, and wherever the chips fall. And I think for everybody, A, it's fun because it's easier, and B, audiences are smart, to your point. You can smell when that person wants to put their agenda through. And so I think the truth, which is a very exciting answer to this question, the truth is undefeated. My friends, accountability, giving with no expectation in return, playing the long game, every single person's business or ambition will grow exponentially tomorrow if they spend the next 13 years giving away free content forever. Seems super non-natural. When do you monetize? How do you do this? The person that holds the breath the longest wins.
Some of you are interested in this work and you like telling people you do it. It make you feel good. But you're not 120 though. Some of you are committed, but this like your side hustle. I'm just being real, y'all. I was fully committed. I left everything and started doing it. And because I was fully committed, the world responded to that commitment. But you just interested. You're not really committed to it. You're not putting in 50, 60 hours. When my wife got diagnosed with MS, I never quit doing the work because I wasn't doing it for people. I was doing it for the kids that I was doing it for. So even with MS, she had to quit her job. I had to take it to another level. Some of y'all are negotiating, not because of the company. You negotiate because you're not the best at what you do. And I need y'all to go back and be the best at what you do. And then I need y'all to come together as the best and then take this thing to the next level. And there are some of you, you know what you want. You know what you want, but you are not personally willing to do the work it takes to get it. What you're trying to do is do what you've done on this level and get the next level. You're trying to do exactly what you're doing on this level. You're like, I'm getting up every day. I'm putting in 2.5. I'm putting in 3, and I'm not getting the opportunity. The opportunity might require 3.5. I'm lifting weights. I'm eating right, and I'm not getting the opportunity. It might require getting up and working out 3.5. It might require you saying no to your friends. It might require you changing your diet. It might require you moving to another city. Whatever it takes, you gotta be willing to do it, and you keep saying you're not there because of something else, because it's easier to blame somebody else. Because now you don't gotta do no work when you blame somebody else. Guess who gotta do the work? They gotta do the work. But guess who got the power? They got the power. How many of y'all tired of other people having the power? Let me see your hand. You want the power. I'm just being real, hands down. Hands down, think about what I just said. How many of you want the power? Let me see your hands. Good, write down next to your crazy idea some of the things that you know you're doing wrong that's messing up what you're doing.
actually being successful or like moving out of our mom's basement or whatever, we put so much energy and time into the presentation of not looking like that's the situation, instead of putting the energy and time into actually finding a solution to that issue. And so at that point, it was like, okay, I've been putting a lot of time and effort trying to pretend things are good instead of actually trying to find solutions. And then that's when I started to do everything I needed to do to try to make money, and just really, when I say embrace, it's not necessarily like accept it for what it is. It's almost like, okay, this is real. I need to figure this out. Take in your surroundings, you take in the people around you, you see how they're making money. And I just didn't like begging people for money. And so I respected the guys that were like figuring out hustles, right? And so, for instance, there was a Amoco right down the street from me. And so I would go there and I would wash windshields and make money, just try to save up enough money to just be in a motel for the night. And I mean like the nastiest motel, but for me, it was just taking in my environment, seeing how other people hustled, how I can do it better. Someone taught me how to play drums on buckets and things like that. And so, you know, I just tried to do any type of hustle that I could. I just started to learn how others were moving and kind of adapted throughout. For me, it's opening your mind and opening yourself to people. I think a lot of people, they are ignorant. They are like rejecting change. Travel, get out of your comfort zone, meet people from all different types of backgrounds. If you want to build a product or service or company that you want to build at scale, and your friends are only the homies that you've been hanging out with since, you know, middle school, probably should meet some more people, get to know them, travel the world, you know. And even if you don't have the resources to travel, the internet, learn about different cultures, learn about different people. You're at that computer, you tell me what you want to do, I tell you, this is how you search, this is how you find those resources. Now you got to actually go and learn. You have to be able to show people that there's other options, and that's what spreading seeds is all about. Showing people that they can actually do something different. There's one thing being homeless, but there's another thing having everything taken away from you. I was literally living out of my car. And so even though I was homeless, I was still trying to uphold the appearance of everything being okay. When that moment happened, it was like, whoa, this is rock bottom, because now all my clothes are gone. All the cool shoes, all the things that were material, that, you know, I tried to fake it until I figured things out, were gone now. And not only that, all the elements. So now rain and snow and all these things can get in the car. So it was like mildewy and smelly. And so I smelled, right? And so for me, in that moment, I understood that, wow, I thought things were bad, but things are really, really bad at this point. And now I can't pretend anymore. I just have to really embrace this. I think a lot of times when we're going through things, we kind of try to figure out how we're going to finesse our way into people not knowing that things are wrong, instead of just saying, this is my life. This is real now. You have like these brief moments of kind of peace until like the next accident happens, right? And that's just life in general. You know, it's never going to be complete smooth sailing. One of the things that I've noticed about a lot of people is that they let the hardships and the things that happen in their life, failure, stop them from, like Aaliyah says, you know, dust yourself off and try again, right? And for me, I've just never let anything or anybody prevent me from achieving what I want to achieve. And so I've always had this relentless mentality. And if you say I can't do something, if I fail, if I, you know, mess up, it just motivates me even more. I just become even more hungry. And so I've always just had this, you know, relentless mentality. I don't take, you know, no for an answer. I don't take failure or accept failure at all. And it's just always been kind of in my heart to not give up. It's the rose that grew from concrete, right? It's like, no matter how terrible a situation is, no matter how bad it is, there's still gonna be a rose that grows from that concrete. And I feel like I was that, right? No matter what my situation was, I was built for this. I was not going to let myself fail, right? And I have that mentality. And I understand that now that I grew from that concrete, I'm starting to plant my seeds, and there's more roses growing.
You don't have to be perfect to be remarkable.
You know, aim high, but manage my expectations of success. People see the 30%. They don't see the 70% of not making it or not getting what you want.
And the interesting thing is that when you are honorable to achievement, the wealth and that kind of thing comes automatically.
My story is all about agility and being able to be flexible. The 5-year, 10-year plan that most CEOs ask, my plan has always been kind of unhinged. It's just like I go where my passion leads me, and I feel free.
Performance mattered, not fame, not money. How well did you do at something is what mattered.
I've got to get through it. I've got to take a snapshot of the really great moments and carry those with me through the really bad ones. And the trick is taking your blinders off and remembering to look at those photos. And it changes the brain, changes the wiring. And I try to breathe. Breathing changes the wiring, but it's conscious. You have to just slow down. You have to cut out all the noise. You have to respect yourself.
Young fans with a tattoo of Danny Zuko or Vincent Vega on their arm, and you say, this, somewhere I made a difference in their life. Was someone glad that you were alive? Were you valuable to someone by being here? And you want to be valuable, you know, otherwise you're kind of wasting your time if you don't find your niche to be valuable to something.
You have to be grateful for what you can get. Plain and simple. Like, be grateful for what you have, because that's, like, we're lucky to even be here. I think it's that feeling to be just lucky to be on the stage playing in front of people, lucky to be sitting with you and talking about this.
It's just important for people to understand that complaining has no value. And if you complain about not having enough money, work more. If you complain about not having work-life balance, spend more time on vacationing and your family. It's super simple. Let your actions dictate instead of sitting there and feeling like you're not in control.
Poor people say, I can't afford it, I can't do that, I don't have time. It's an escape, you know what I mean? It's easy to say I can't afford it. Oh, I'm too tired. Oh, I can't go to the gym. You know, when you could go to the gym, but no, I can't. Truth is, I'm just too lazy to go to the gym.
My first shows, I was playing for 5 people. Like, some of them didn't even want to be there, honestly. But I was pretending like it was like a big deal. When I started DJing, I was playing, I remember when like 5 people would be like, yeah, and there was like, everyone else just doesn't give a shit. I'm like, those are my 5 people. I focus on them. And after I talk to them, hang out with them. I used to do that at every show when I was in a band. We would tour across the United States, and we would drive like 10 hours, and we show up, I remember in like Albuquerque or something, and there was 12 people that showed up. And after the show, I like hung out with all of them, and one of the guys let us stay in their house, because we were sleeping in our van the whole time. Man, I was excited after the whole tour. I was like, when are we gonna go back again? And it's like, you know, you have to start in that mindset. It's like you can't, that's the problem with social media right now, is that you're comparing yourself to people that have like this large success, and you're like, I want to play there. But you first have to go with what you have in front of you and make that meaningful.
You can't forget that life is an art. This is why Oprah and I connected immediately, because, you know, we did a whole episode one time on enlightening people that didn't have money on how they can live art. I said, very easy. I said, can the average fellow go to Walmart and afford it's like a tray? Yes, it might be $3. Can you afford a cup instead of a paper cup? Might be $1, it's fine. Now, can you put your favorite coffee in that cup? Can you go to a market or something and get a nice blueberry muffin? Can you make that look pretty? Put a flower on that tray. Now can you go give it to your husband or your wife? They'll think they're at the Four Seasons and you have minimal money. It's how you approach shit. You know, it's the art of life. Someone wants wealth or they want fame. It's harder for that to happen because it's not based on anything that has a bean exchange to it. You know, I always say, if you want to be wealthy on just money, get into the money business, investments, banking, you know. But if you're in the arts, I would do it for art's sake first, and then hopefully others will follow, but not make it a prerequisite, but just keep doing the right thing and the good thing, it'll happen.
We all make mistakes. We all struggle.
This like unconscious feeling that I need to prove to my dad that I'm gonna make it, because that's like what I grew up with. I grew up with this, like, I need to make it, because he implanted those subliminal messages towards me, you know, like when I was a kid growing up throughout my life.
You know, let's say some parent that doesn't want their kid to play the violin, okay, and they're antagonistic. You know, you've got to be an accountant. You've got to be an accountant. You go, okay, Dad, I love you, but if I become an accountant, I'm becoming what you want me to be, and I have a good chance at having a not so happy life. Even if I fail at being a violinist, at least I failed on my own terms, and I failed doing something I loved. So you gotta let up on me, Dad, or brother, or sister, or whatever, whoever that character is that has a counter intention to you. You have to get with them and get real and say, look, it's my life, it's not your life, and this is how I need to do it.
Why are you so hungry? Like, why do you keep doing this at this level?
Because at the end of the day, you know, that's what you have as evidence of a life well lived, a contribution to people. You know, you know, if let's say I have 70 movies and each one delivers a kind of joy to a certain audience, the collage or the mosaic of your career has this blanketed effect that suddenly you can go away with pride that it was a job well done, and you maybe made a difference in a lot of people's lives.
When you do something because you love it, it's being an amateur. And if you're a professional, you have to do it regardless of whether you love it or whether you feel like it that night. The trick is to keep both. Because if you don't love it, then it's empty.
You know, but we're getting there. What's crazy is that we're actually, the dreams I had as a kid, they're actually happening, which is it's bizarre and wild. I really want to showcase to all the young people that the shy kids, that the kids that are like, yeah, I will not be successful like that. I will have to like sit in a cubicle and do, you know, the boring stuff, which is actually what my dad told me to do. It's like, that's real life. You have other ways to look at your scenario. And, you know, it's like, I'm trying to speak to that demo, to those kids, to those people, to the young people out there like that. Even to the older people that are like, maybe I need to stop my job and like pursue something else. Or maybe I need to reevaluate what I want to do with my life.
I'm learning now, I think, to try to go with the flow, to enjoy things, not to worry so much.
If you always do good work from your standards, whether you're in a project that fails or succeeds, you can live with that.
I'm 40. Do you know how young we feel? When you were 26, did you ever think that this is what 44 felt like?
No.
You thought that was finished?
Yeah.
How old are you? Like, you think a 40-year-old, like, when I was 25 years old, I thought a 40-year-old was finished. I don't even feel like I'm starting. And so I'm giving real advice, and real advice looks like this. When you're 19 and you can spend 7 full years learning your craft, meeting people that are mentors, being patient, and you wake up and you're 26 years old, you have your entire life in front of you, and you've done great foundational work to go on and then be successful.
If you want to be the best at something, you're going to find a way to push through those challenges and make sure you do what you need to do to be successful. It's all about work ethic. It's all about what you choose to do in life, what is important to you, what is that goal that you're going to identify and go after and say, I'm going to go after this thing wholeheartedly. It doesn't matter what other people say. This is what I feel. It's positive. I love it. You know, the whole world disappears when I do it, and I'm going to channel this thing so I can help myself, so I can help other people. I put the work into this like every day, all day. And then when I'm done with it, guess what I do? I dream about it. I visualize it. I see myself being successful. I see myself hitting those shots with no time on the clock, with a little time on the clock. And anytime I was successful in those situations, I mean, you know, I would always let people know it's through dedication, through your hard work, and through mental preparation and visualization. If you do those things, if you can see yourself being successful in your mind, then it will appear in the physical reality if you're calm and collected when you get the opportunity. If you want to be great, oh man, prepare to get up off that mat. You're going to get knocked down over and over and over. And even when you feel like, no, I can't be hit this hard. Or if you're down there thinking, there's no way I can get up from this. That's when you're just starting. That's when it really that's when your survival skills have to kick in, and hopefully you've trained enough in your mental preparation and really believe enough in yourself to get up. Because, you know, everybody, I think we always said, the easiest thing to do is hold that trophy. That's the easiest thing to do in this process. And that's only going to be for a very short amount of time. The work, the will, the commitment. Like I said, not getting up when you're knocked down. I mean, there's always going to be these struggles or challenges that you have to get over. And the hardest part is, in you trying to be one of the best in the game, there's going to be a tension with it. You have to live it. You have to want it so bad to where you'll sacrifice those Saturday nights or Friday nights with your friends. This is what I'm going to put my time into because this is what I want. The most critical piece of advice that I've ever gotten, and I won't name who, was from a coach. One day all he said, and I'm going to paint the picture for you. I was a rookie. I'm 19 years old. I'm playing with guys old enough to be my dad. I'm getting thrown around. I'm playing a level of basketball that I'm barely hanging on by a nail with, but I'm one of our best players, so I'm playing every night. I want to go home. I'm not used to the cold. I'm getting beat up, but I wouldn't quit. And I was looking for this piece of advice from someone, and all they told me was just like, they would always tell me, hey man, keep going. Just keep going. All the time, every time. And you know, I got so mad because I'm looking for that euphoric feeling from the piece of information that they're about to give me, right? That's what I think we all kind of struggle sometimes, looking for that and putting too much pressure on the situation. But as I got older, as I continued to train, as I continued to not give up and not let a loss define me or my character, I kept going. Lose or win, I kept going. And then it really started to click. What he was telling me was, he didn't have anything to tell me. I cannot, I can't sugarcoat this ass whooping. It is what it is. You're going to take your lumps, but if you keep going, if you don't quit, you're going to get better. And you're going to get better, and you're going to get better. Hey, keep going. And then after that, you keep going. And then after that, you keep going. Because it's about what we do. It's about how we handle the situation. It's not about what happens to us, because things are going to happen. How are you going to separate yourself from everybody else? And I always thought, anytime it got really incredibly hard, I would think about all the people quitting right now and how they're going to feel in a few years, that they're just going to say, man, what if I hadn't have given up? What if I would have kept going? Don't say what if. Please, 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 please don't have the what ifs down the road. You keep going now, and I'm telling you, you'll be in a better place than you would be if you quit. Yeah, back when I was playing, my edge was my intensity. My edge was my focus and my commitment. I put everything into the game. I prepared. I dreamt about it. I visualized it. I always prepared myself mentally for whatever is coming. And I felt that was my edge. I read books. I felt that was an edge as well. I've read these different books on mental toughness, and I'm going to take nuggets from each one to maybe it'll help me, because I know I'm going into a tough situation and it's going to be extremely hard, but I'm not going to give up. And it doesn't even matter if the other side knows that about me. They're in trouble before they even lace it up. That's how I felt every single match. I didn't care who I was playing. And, it kind of spills over into this day. It's all about work ethic. It's all about what you choose to do in life, what is important to you. What is that goal that you're going to identify and go after?
Speaking about your career, greatness, 2 NBA championships, and then it's cut short. Take us into the emotion.
Oh man, it sucks. It's heartbreaking. It's surreal, unbelievable. And I don't mean in a good way. And for a while, I fought that notion. Not me. It couldn't have happened to me. This is not fair. I haven't done anything wrong. I came back from it. It happened twice to me. I came back from the last time. I was in the hospital, laid up, fresh out of surgery. And I was in the hospital for 2 weeks with tubes in my chest, and I overcame that. Man, not just in a regular appointment with some doctor telling me that it's over. It took a very long time to get over that. It was crushing. It was heartbreaking, and I blew off steam at the time by, trying to get back in the league. I worked out vigorously, trying to stay ready. But eventually I came to the realization that it wasn't going to happen. And, it just sucks. There's no other way to put that. I thought, and I say it in the book as well, I thought winning a championship was the hardest thing I'd ever do. And we say that, it was like a mantra in the locker room. This is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. This goal right here. And it was true up until a point, but it didn't last very long. The true challenge was being able to see that, while I'm in the weeds, getting out of the weeds of saying, okay, basketball doesn't define me. I'm not a basketball player anymore. I once was, but that's not all to me. I didn't want to hear it at first because, like you said, I'm on the top of my game. I have at least 3 or 4 more years to play at a high level, and I'm not going to waste it because I almost died. I'm going to make sure I put everything into this game. I was able to get back to all-star level and still be, not only myself, but a better version of my new self. And, that was cut short. And, you have to go through the stages of grief. We're all human. There's nothing you can do about that. But I'm just happy that I was able to have a beautiful outlook on it at the end and eventually work through all that pain and get to this point. You know, I found myself writing out my pain. And after I got through all of, Pat Riley likes to call it mental diarrhea. Got all the mental diarrhea out, writing every morning. I then saw that I was appreciative at the end of the day. I still had my life. You know, my thing was, hey, if I'm gonna have 13 years at this thing, I thought I was gonna have 18 or 19, but if I'm gonna have 13, boy, I don't think I left a stone unturned. There's nothing else that I could have done. I put my all into it. I dedicated myself to it, and man, that's a hell of a piece, and I can look back and be proud of that.
Unbelievable is the stupidest word in the dictionary. Should never come out of our mouths. Think about it. To say, oh wow, what an unbelievable play. It was an unbelievable book, an unbelievable film, an unbelievable act of courage. Really? It may be spectacular, it may be phenomenal, most excellent or outstanding, but unbelievable? Give others and yourself more credit. It just happened. You witnessed it. You just did it. Believe it. Give your obstacles credit.
You know, once you do find your frequency on something, go forward if you're a non-tyrant and don't ask permission. And that's the not giving a damn part. I've found that the world will actually acquiesce and go, yeah, I'll give you a green light on that. If you actually go forward and mean it, and you're gonna do it by hook or by crook and not ask permission.
Life is not easy. It is not. Don't try to make it that way. Life's not fair. It never was. It isn't now, and it won't ever be. Do not fall into the trap, the entitlement trap, of feeling like you're a victim. You are not. Get over it and get on with it. And yes, most things are more rewarding when you break a sweat to get them.
Sit here in that discomfort long enough to go, okay, until you come out the other side to go, all right, I'm good with me again. I don't want to leave a place I traveled to until I get to the point of going, I could live here. This could be my existence. And as soon as I get to that point, then I'm like, okay, you can go. Now I can go. That's the same thing in the personal journeys. Stick with it till you get through the discomfortable to uncomfortable times, until you go, you know what? I can spend time with myself. I could do this. I could do this forever. Well, then it's okay to go re-engage, pick up your phone, go see your friends, go have a drink, what have you, go look for those things that are other relationships in life. But hopefully not until. There's great value in not doing that until you go, I'm good with me and me for right now.
So to any of us, whatever those things are, whatever it is we look up to, whatever it is we look forward to, and whoever it is we're chasing, to that I say amen. To that I say, all right, all right, all right. And to that I say, just keep living, huh? Thank you. See, happiness is an emotional response to an outcome. If I win, I will be happy. If I don't, I won't. It's an if-then, cause and effect, quid pro quo standard that we cannot sustain because we immediately raise it every time we attain it. See, happiness demands a certain outcome. It is result reliant. And I say, if happiness is what you're after, then you're going to be let down frequently and you're going to be unhappy much of your time. Joy, though, joy is a different thing. It's something else. Joy is not a choice. It's not a response to some result. It's a constant. Joy is the feeling that we have from doing what we are fashioned to do. It is just as important where we are not as it is where we are. Look, the first step that leads to our identity in life is usually not, I know who I am, I know who I am. That's not the first step. The first step's usually, I know who I am not. Process of elimination. Defining ourselves by what we are not is the first step that leads us to really knowing who we are. south of New Orleans a few years ago, and I went to a voodoo shop. And they had this wooden partition against the wall with these columns. And in these columns were all these vials of these magic potions, right? And the headings above each potion defining what they would give you were things like fertility, health, family, legal help, energy, forgiveness, money. Guess which column was empty? Money. Let's admit it. Money is king today. It's what makes the world go round. It is success. The more we have, the more successful we are, right? Now, I would argue that our cultural values have even been financialized. Humility is not in vogue anymore. It's too passive. It's a get rich quick on the internet, richest 15 minutes of fame world that we live in, and we see it every day. But we all want to succeed, right? So the question that we got to ask ourselves is what success is to us, what success is to you. Is it more money? That's fine. I got nothing against money. I don't. Maybe it's a healthy family. Maybe it's a happy marriage. Maybe it's to help others, to be famous, to be spiritually sound, to leave the world a little bit better place than you found it. Continue to ask yourself that question. Now, your answer may change over time, and that's fine. But do yourself this favor. Whatever your answer is, don't choose anything that will jeopardize your soul. Prioritize who you are, who you want to be, and don't spend time with anything that antagonizes your character. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, man. It tastes sweet, but you will get cavities tomorrow, all right? Life is not a popularity contest. Be brave, take the hill, but first answer that question, what's my hill?
There's a responsibility to freedom, and that there is freedom in responsibility. You know, and that earn your way there. We remember the stuff we earn, the stuff we experience, more than what the teacher tells us or what someone gives us for free. We just do. We broke a proverbial sweat on it, whether it was mental or physical or whatever. We built it. We understand. We felt how we got it, how we achieved it, how we got what we wanted. Those stick with us. Whether we forget them intellectually, they were written in our lineage, and they build resilience, and they build a healthy, true optimism going forward to know that, oh no, I've worked for something before and achieved it. Delayed gratification. Oh, there are choices I can make today for myself that will pay me back later in life. So there are choices we make. If you're going to say right now, I'm going to lie, cheat, and steal to get what I want, and I got it. I got an immediate green light for me. That's a battery-powered green light. That's not a solar-powered green light. Why? Because now, everywhere I go, I got to look over my shoulder to see if someone's there that I lied, cheated, and stole from. And when I'm doing that, I'm stealing whose time? My time. I'm not free. I don't have the freedom. I didn't create freedom in my future because I chose to make an irresponsible act that I left crumbs. I've now got reasons to look over my shoulder. And the more things we do to create in our future that we got to look over our shoulder, the more of our most precious thing we have in our lives, time, that we're stealing from ourselves. So it's not puritanical. It's just like, it's actually self-serving. It's a very selfish choice. And I'm a fan of the word selfish. I've helped redefine it. But I believe that there are selfish choices we can make that are the most selfless, that there are selfless choices that we can make that are the most selfish choices. Those two are not a contradiction, and we see them that way. Responsibility is appreciation of a past. It's building of a lineage. It's investing in ourselves. It's investing in something we started to build yesterday that we want to take into tomorrow. There's a response that gives us freedom.
So be brave, have courage, and when you do, you get stronger, you get more aware, you get more respectful of yourself and that which you fear.
I want you to tell us what those lowest moments of childhood felt like in one word.
Temporary. absolutely temporary. There was just no way I was gonna let that person beat me again. And there was just no way I was gonna stay comfortable in this negative place. Just a matter of time. Some things are just destiny, you know? Look, everybody goes through a moment in their life where everything you thought up to that second vanishes, and you realize that there's an opportunity to change the story that you've written in your head for the last 2-3 decades. And I think it's universal. I think there are very few people who don't get to a point at year 20, 30, 35 that don't start debating, wait a minute, is this what I want? Is this where I'm going? Is this how it's playing out? And, you know, to me, that is one of the most important moments in one's life. You know, many people look at it as a moment to start to get upset and say, wait a minute, this is not what I signed up for. And others, regardless of what's happened, use it as an opportunity to write the next chapter.
3, 2, 1, full power, and liftoff.
There need to be things that excite and inspire people.
Yeah.
You have to be, you know, reasons why you get up in the morning. It can't just be solving problems. It's got to be, yeah, something great's going to happen in the future.
Well, first of all, I'd say I actually feel fear quite strongly. So it's not as though I just have the absence of fear. I feel it quite strongly. But there are just times when something is important enough, you believe in it enough, that you do it in spite of the fear.
There's always a chance of failure. So I think it's important that you really like whatever you're doing. If you don't like it, life is too short. And also, if you like what you're doing, you think about it even when you're not working. I mean, it's something that your mind is drawn to. And if you don't like it, you just really can't make it work, I think.
When you're building something new, there's going to be mistakes. And it's important to recognize those mistakes, acknowledge them, and take corrective action. And the success of a company is very much more about how quick are you to fix the mistakes, not will you make mistakes. And if you see the difference between a startup that is successful and one that is not, and it's because the successful one, they both made mistakes, but the successful one recognized the mistakes, fixed them very quickly, and the unsuccessful one tries to deny that the mistakes exist. You know, a lot of life in general, in any job, there's like, you have to do your chores. I think to be successful at almost anything, you have to do the tough stuff and as well as the enjoyable stuff. You have to do the boring stuff as well as the non-boring stuff. And if you don't do your chores, then bad things will happen. But if they don't do the things that they don't like to do, then the company will be in trouble. Like you have to, you basically, like it's more fun to cook the meal than to clean the dishes, okay? But you need to clean the dishes.
You need to do both.
Yes, you need to do both, exactly.
Now is the time to take risk. You don't have kids. As you get older, your obligations increase. And once you have a family, you start taking risk not just for yourself, but for your family as well. It gets much harder to do things that might not work out. So now is the time to do that. Before you have those obligations. So I would encourage you to take risks now. Do something bold. You won't regret it. When starting SpaceX, I thought the odds of success were less than 10%. Yeah, same with Tesla. I thought the odds of a car company succeeding were extremely low. And I just accepted that actually probably I would just lose everything. But that maybe we would make some progress. If we could just move the ball forward, even if we died, maybe some other company could pick up the baton and keep moving it forward. First of all, I really need to give some thought to like, how can I provide advice that would be most helpful? And I'm not sure I've given enough thought to that to give you the best possible answer. But I think certainly being focused on something that you're confident will have high value to someone else, and just being really rigorous in making that assessment.
a natural human tendency is wishful thinking. So a challenge for entrepreneurs is to say, well, what's the difference between really believing in your ideals and sticking to them versus pursuing some unrealistic dream that doesn't actually have merit? And that is a really difficult thing to tell. Can you tell the difference between those two things?
Right.
You know? So you need to be sort of very rigorous in your self-analysis. I think certainly extremely tenacious, and then just work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in, 80-hour, 100-hour weeks every week. All those things improve the odds of success.
Okay.
I mean, if other people are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you're putting in 100-hour work weeks, then even if you're doing the same thing, you know that you will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve. I think one of the biggest mistakes people generally make, and I'm guilty of it too, is wishful thinking. Like you want something to be true, even if it isn't true. And so you ignore the things that, you ignore the real truth because of what you want to be true. This is a very difficult trap to avoid. And like I said, certainly one that I find myself in having problems with. But if you just take that approach of you're always to some degree wrong and your goal is to be less wrong, and solicit critical feedback, particularly from friends. Like particularly friends, if somebody loves you, they want the best for you. They don't want to tell you the bad things. So you have to ask them, and say, really, I really do want to know. and then they'll tell you. And the way I tend to view problems is from a physics standpoint. I think physics is a good analytical framework. And one of the key things in physics is to reason from first principles. This is contrary to the way most human reasoning takes place, which is by analogy. Reasoning from first principles just means that you figure out what are the fundamental truths or things that people are pretty sure are fundamental truths, and can you build up to a conclusion from that, from those principles, and then certainly if you come up with some idea and it appears to violate one of those fundamental truths, then you're probably wrong, or you should get a really big prize or something like that. This may seem like, I don't know, it may seem sort of obvious when it's explained, but it's actually not what people do. Reasoning by analogies is helpful because it's a shortcut. Yeah. And it's mostly correct, but it tends to be most incorrect when you're dealing with new things, because it's hard to analogize to something really new.
When you were in college and developing these skills, you wanted to do some things that were of benefit to humanity. Why did you think that? Well, because not everyone does.
Yeah, no, I guess it was, I had sort of an existential crisis of like, what does it all mean, and what's the meaning of life, and it probably goes back to high school, I guess. I don't want to give a laboriously long answer, but I was, I had sort of a dark childhood. It wasn't good. Probably partially brought on by reading some of the philosophers. Like, don't ever read Schopenhauer and Nietzsche if you're 14. It's not good. I was just trying to figure out what does it all mean. And when I read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I think is a great work of philosophy, that sort of highlighted the point that very often the issue is understanding what questions to ask. And if you can properly frame the question, then the answer is the easy part. So I thought things that expand the scope and scale of the human consciousness and allow us to better ask questions and achieve greater enlightenment, those are good things. And so that's sort of what can we do that's going to most likely lead to that outcome.
You went to IU, right? Now you got a lot of people that say forget about school, drop out of school.
They're idiots.
So you think they're idiots? Tell me why.
If you're going to have and run a business, if you don't understand accounting, you're already behind the 8 ball.
Can't you hire a guy that knows how to run
accounting? But then they still have to communicate to you, right? I mean, there's people that don't understand the concept of, the difference between profits and cash. You know, oh, your accountant might tell you you're profitable, but your cash is going down. You know, not understanding a breakdown. And when you don't,
do you think you need college to learn that?
Yeah, I think you do, right? Because it may not, for some people, look, if you're so self-motivated that you can take an online course in accounting and teach yourself everything, you're way ahead of the game anyways. But most people aren't. And I'm not saying you have to go to Indiana. I'm not saying go to an expensive school. I don't care if you go to a community college and take accounting and spend $99 for the class. Just, you know, spending the money forces you to be more obligated to do it. But accounting, finance, lesser extent marketing, sales if the school offers that, these are all that's the language of business. And so while it's possible to teach yourself these things, and while it's possible to hire them, when you're starting your own company, you don't want to have to spend money hiring an accountant. And so your cost of opening up a business drops. But even more important than all that, that's the blocking and tackling, that's the language of business. You know, the thing I learned at Indiana that was more important than anything else, I learned how to learn. And learning became far more important to me, because the one certainty in business is that it's always going to be changing. If you're not always learning, to this minute, if I'm not continuously learning, if I'm not just absorbing as much as I can absorb, someone else is going to kick my ass, right? So you talk about paranoia. The greatest source of your paranoia should be knowledge. If someone else knows more than you do, and if you're not learning, if you don't know how to learn, if you don't have a thirst for learning and acquiring information, you're SOL. You know, people like to say, you know, the only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask, and that's not right, right? Because the questions you ask tell whoever more about you than anything else you do. Because in particular, it tells me about your preparation. If you ask me questions about just basic things that you should have known and you should have down to a science, that's going to disqualify you almost more than anything.
Do you think there needs to be a healthy level of paranoia?
Oh, absolutely.
There needs to be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I always say, you know, for every one of my businesses, I said, what would I do to kick my own ass? You right? So whatever business you have, there's somebody trying to put you out of business. There's somebody trying to take a bite out of your business. And it's better for you to figure out how they're going to do it rather than they do it. And so, yeah, that's being paranoid. And so you have to be paranoid. You have to anticipate other people's next moves. And you can't ever, you know, downplay the competition. I was at a business plan competition this morning at a college, and they were kind of being dismissive of the competition. And so you can't ever do that. You know, they're out there trying to take you down, and they're not just going to sit still. And if you're good, really, really good, you're going to inspire them to work even harder, faster, better. And so you have to be, you know, very self-aware of what you're good at and what other people are good at. And, you know, a healthy dose of paranoia makes a big difference, is very helpful. If you're not always learning, to this minute, if I'm not continuously learning, if I'm not just absorbing as much as I can absorb, someone else is going to kick my ass. The greatest source of your paranoia should be knowledge. If someone else knows more than you do, and if you're not learning, if you don't know how to learn, if you don't have a thirst for learning and acquiring information, you're SOL. There's certain guys that have the genetics to jump out of the gym, right? There's certain guys, you know, that, you know, when they golf, they have the muscle memory and the discipline. You know, Dirk Nowitzki may not be the most talented guy in the NBA, but his discipline and his focus to do what's necessary to be successful, he's willing to do, and combine it with being 7 feet tall and being skilled, you know, it makes him an amazing basketball player. So it's understanding what your skill set is, finding the right place to use those skills, and then going for it. You know, will that make you 250 grand? It depends if you pick the right industry. But whatever industry you pick, if you outwork everybody, if you try to be a little smarter than everybody, if you try to be a better salesperson than everybody, if you try to be better prepared than everybody, you've got your best chance. Because if you don't do it and somebody else does, you know, I have the saying, work like someone's trying to take it all away from you. You know, I actually work like someone's spending 24 hours, working 24 hours to take it all away from you. And that's kind of the way I look at it.
What would you say is the number one reason why people fail? Not necessarily why they make it, the complete opposite.
Right, lack of brains, lack of effort.
Lack of brains, lack of effort.
Yeah, they don't do the work, they don't learn, you know. When you walk in the room, when you start a business and you start to talk about somebody, you're never in a vacuum with no competition. And if there's going to be competition, that means somebody else knows your business as well as you do when you get started. And if you walk into a competitive environment and they still know more about the business than you do and more about your customers, you're going to lose. But most people don't consider that. They don't do the work. They don't learn more about their industry. They don't know even about their business. I mean, and so you've got to put in the effort to know more about your industry than anybody else. And that's the brains part, and that's the effort part as well. Because look, if you're competing with me, you better know what you're doing, otherwise I'm gonna kick your ass, you know, and you're not gonna outwork me. And so, you know, the combination is usually what kills businesses early on more than anything. But my dad was always like, if you want something, you have to earn it. And to his credit, he never said, no, you can't do that. So whether it was selling garbage bags, baseball cards, stamps, whatever it was, he never held me back. And so I think that was as important as anything. And you know, sometimes being young and trying things, you're so naive and you don't know any better, all you do is learn. And if you fail, it doesn't matter. And so whether I was 9, 10, 12, 16, 21, the failures were irrelevant. And you know, whether you're 9, 12, 16, 21, 22, 24, you know, I'm sleeping on the couch, you know, I have a car with a hole in the floorboard, you know, I'm living like a bum and like a student. And so what did I have to lose? And so I think that influenced me as much as anything. So it was, you know, my dad was like, go for it, you know, why not? What have you got to lose?
Yeah, so do you think, like, let's just say if we put 10 guys here, you interview them, okay? Mm-hmm. You could, within a 5-10 minute interview, say, this dude's not gonna make it as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, I can typically tell, right? I can tell by their passion, I can tell by their focus, I can tell by their preparation. You know, there's a whole realm of things in any business. Here, you know, here's the business you're in, and here's 1,000 things that influence whether or not you're gonna be successful. You know, through my experience in businesses, I can put myself in his position and say, okay, here are 900 of the 1,000 things he has to be aware of, and then go through and ask. And by how many of those or her issues they've been able to address already, that kind of gives me a sense of how hard they're willing to work. You know, and I can tell by the questions they ask me. So all I have to do is say, okay, what do you want to know?
But I'm curious, if you and I were buddies in high school, say we're 14 years old, 15 years old, and we know each other, would I bet on you being who you are today?
No chance.
Really?
No chance.
Tell me why.
I mean, I had my good friends, and you know, we hung out, and I was a hustler. There's no question I was a hustler.
Even in high school?
Oh yeah, and into business in a big way. But I don't think people saw it in me. It wasn't like people looked at me and go, oh, he's destined to succeed.
So in high school, you were the fun guy. Were you always the guy that made people laugh? Were you very competitive?
I was always competitive. I was into sports. I wasn't great at it. I was just decent. Wasn't a technology guy. I mean, I was into learning. I was a business guy. I was the guy reading about business all the time, reading business books all the time. You know, going to junior achievement. I was a junior achievement geek.
Why though? Why were you reading business books?
Because that's what I knew. I mean, I was wired that I always. You know, I started my first business when I was 12. I was buying and selling baseball cards, buying and selling stamps. Anything I could do to make money, I was hustling and trying to do. So I was into business, but I not so much where it was all my friends were into it with me, so they wouldn't know.
Do you think there's a proven formula that if a brand rookie guy, he's got a lot of ambition, he's got a lot of desire, but not a lot of knowledge and how to, do you think if he follows a formula, he's guaranteed to make it as an entrepreneur?
No.
Okay, so you don't believe there's a guarantee to make it?
No, because who knows who you're going to be competing with. So if you put two people both following the same formula, both in the same industry, right, which one wins? You know, maybe they both can win and both be successful, but you know, so I don't think there's a default template for success, but I think there's things that you can do to put yourself in the best position to succeed.
All right, now I'm gonna tell you the story. I gotta get out of here. And the story is about, you guys have probably heard about this before. It was a young man who, you know, he wanted to make a lot of money, and so he went to this guru, right? And he told the guru, you know, I want to be on the same level you on. And so the guru said, if you want to be on the same level I'm on, I'll meet you tomorrow at the beach at 4 a.m. He liked the beach. I said, I want to make money. I don't want to swim. So the young man got there at 4 a.m. He all ready to rock and roll, got on the suit. He should have wore shorts. The old man grabs his hand and said, how bad do you want to be successful? He said, real bad. He said, walk on out in the water. So he walks out into the water. Watch this. When he walks out into the water, it goes waist deep. So he like, this guy crazy. Adrian, he's like, I want to make money. He got me out here swimming. I didn't ask to be a lifeguard. I want to make money. He got me in. So he said, come out a little further, walked out a little further. Then he had it right around this area, the shoulder area. So this old man crazy. He making money, but he crazy. He said, come on out a little further. Came out a little further. It was right at his mouth. My man like, I'm about to go back in here. This guy is mine. So the old man said, I thought you said you wanted to be successful. He said, I do. He said, walk a little further. He came, dropped his head in, held him down, hold him down. My man getting scratching, holding him down. He had him held down. Just before my man was about to pass out, he raised him up. He said, I got a question for you. Somebody answered the question for me. He said, when you were underwater, what did you want to do? He said, I wanted to breathe. He told the guy, he said, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. I don't know how many of y'all got asthma in here today, but if you ever had an asthma attack before, you short of breath, the only thing you're trying to do is get some air. You don't care about no basketball game. You don't care what's on TV. You don't care about nobody calling you. You don't care about a party. The only thing you care about when you're trying to breathe is to get some fresh air. That's it. And when you get to the point where all you want to do is be successful as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. And I'm here to tell you, number one, that most of you say you want to be successful, but you don't want it bad. You just kind of want it. You don't want it badder than you want to party. You don't want it as much as you want to be cool. Most of you don't want success as much as you want to sleep. Beyonce said once she was on the set doing her thing, 3 days had gone by, she forgot she didn't eat because she was engaged. I'll never forget when 50 Cent was doing his movie, I did a little research on 50, and 50 said that when he wasn't doing the movie, he was doing the soundtrack. And they said, when do you sleep, 50? Sleep, he said, sleep. Sleep is for those people who are broke. I don't sleep. He said, I got an opportunity to make a dream become a reality. Most of you won't be successful because when you're studying and you get tired, you quit. And I'm here to tell you today, if you got somebody came in my office the other day crying. I said, look, don't cry to give up, cry to keep going. Don't cry to quit. You already in pain, you already hurt, get a reward from it. Don't go to sleep until you succeed. Listen to me, I'm here to tell you today that you can come here, you can jump up, you can do flips, you can be excited when we give away money, but listen to me, you'll never be successful until I don't have to give you a dime to do what you do. You won't be successful until you say, I don't need that money, because I got it in here. So listen to me, Emmett Smith said this at the end of the commercial. Emmett Smith said, all men are created equal, some work harder in preseason. I'm gonna say it again because you might have missed it. All men are created equal, some work harder in preseason. So that means that there are some people who are going to see the professor, going to see the TA, and even when the professor says, I don't meet with you, my TA meet with you, you say, I don't want to talk to your TA. I don't pay the TA. I pay you to teach me. So you're gonna have to find some time to meet me. If I gotta meet you at the mall, if I gotta meet you at your house, you are going to see me. Listen to me, all men are created equal, some work hard in preseason. When I went to college, guys were way smarter than me. 4.0s, 3.0s, they went to the Ivy League high schools, came to Oakwood from these great high schools. Most of them are not doing what I'm doing. Why? Because it's not about where you come from. It's about heart. You come to a place where, being smart ain't enough. You gotta have heart. That's number one. Watch number two. The important thing is this. You're right in why I'm saying it. The most important thing is this. To be able at any moment to sacrifice what you are for what you will become. That's the number two thing. You gotta catch that one. To be able to, listen to me, at any moment. Some of you can make sacrifices when Monday Night Football is not on. You can make a sacrifice, but when the game come on, for some reason, you just attach to it. For some of you, when your favorite show come on, you can make sacrifices on Sunday when ain't nothing going on. But when your favorite show comes on Monday, bam, some of you focus until the phone ring, and then you like, I gotta answer it. If I don't answer the phone, I'm gonna die. I'm saying to you today that there are some of you, if you give up your cell phone, you would be successful. But your cell phone is more important to you than your success. gonna say it again. I'm gonna hurt somebody. Some of you need to give up your cell phone because the time you spend on your cell phone could be used for your success. The time you could be using to be successful, you're using it on the cell. And the cell phone is not bringing you nothing but a bill. And somebody has told you you couldn't live without it. I'm talking about going deep now, giving up stuff. Watch what it says. To be able at any moment to sacrifice what we are for what we could be. I don't do well in math. You're right. You ain't never studied. I'm not good in writing because you have never written before. But I dare you to fail in writing for a whole year to see if you can get to the end. I dare you to fail. I dare you to take that same class over and over again. I dare you to stop dropping classes like you soft.
The way you begin the day profoundly sets up the way your day unfolds. If we recite our excuses long enough, we actually believe they're true. We are built to change. We are built to grow. We are built to own our heroic nature. And society has brainwashed us and heart-washed us into thinking that the great ones are cut from a different cloth. And it's not true. As a matter of fact, in the 5am Club, I say, genius is less about genetics and much more about your daily habits. Wow. Every visionary is initially ridiculed before they're revered. And look at Jonas Salk, Elon Musk right now. I mean, Martin Luther King Jr., look at Nelson Mandela, look at Marie Curie, look at Edison and Einstein, look at Galileo. These were all ordinary people who followed their joy, who came up with a vision. And the very nature of a great vision means you're going to disrupt the status quo. It's going to scare people who are card-carrying members of the status quo. And ask yourself, how can I fortify my mindset? How can I insulate my heart set? How can I optimize my health set? How can I escalate my soul set? The 4 interior empires that I've introduced in the 5am Club, so that when I walk out in the world, I'm creative, I'm productive, I'm compassionate, I radiate positivity, and I have resilience in case I get knocked down. I would say give it a try. I don't just give it a try for a week, Give it a try for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, the 66-day minimum. Then judge by your results. We all have the ability as human beings to arrive at our own original form of greatness. We have not been schooled. We have not been taught, a lot of us have not been mentored on the mindsets, heart sets, routines, rituals that will create and allow us to live our personal genius. But, if you look at the greatest women and men who have ever graced the planet, these were so-called ordinary people who just set up their lives in such a way that their native gifts saw the light of day. And so according to University College London, if we do any practice or habit for 66 days, we reach a point of automaticity where it becomes easier to do that new habit than not do the new habit. Once you wire in the new habit, for the first 20 minutes, 5 to 5:20, you move. Because you can release BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which promotes neurogenesis. It optimizes your brain. If you move first thing in the morning, you release serotonin, which makes you feel good. You release dopamine, which sets you up for inspiration. Second, we can get into it more deeply, but second pocket from 5:20 to 5:40 is reflect. While the rest of the world is asleep, there's such quietude in the air. This is where you can pray, you can meditate, write in a journal, sit in quietude, so that you're focused, living your life and your priorities through the day. And then the final pocket of the 20-20-20 formula that I talk about in the 5am Club is grow. You'll never get old if you grow. You'll never become obsolete in your business, even in a time of great volatility, if you're growing. You'll always stay happy if you grow. I've had a lot of night owls who have said, I could never be a morning person. I've had a lot of people who've said, grandma couldn't get up early, grandpa couldn't get up early, my parents couldn't get up early, I don't have early rising genes, And what I would say is, if you don't read that book you've been resisting because you don't think it's for you, you might just miss your new favorite book. If you fall in love with your most closely cherished beliefs and you're not open to trying new things, you might miss your trying your new favorite food. If you say, well, here's the kind of friends that I hang out with, and I'm not open to anyone else, you might miss that new friend or that new mentor who will transform the way you run your craft and live your life. And it's the same for the morning routine. So there are times to be productive and there are times to rest. Now, I very much believe in the 5 a.m. club and the 20-20-20 formula. I very much believe that it will create a pharmacy of mastery within your brain. It's been proven by science. You know, even just the simple idea of starting your day with some sweaty exercise. Why sweaty exercise? Is because when you sweat, it'll release the BDNF, which John Rady at Harvard calls miracle grow for the brain. But just that idea of exercising first thing in the morning will help you become more resilient, peaceful, strong during the day. So yes, do your morning routine. Yes, run the 20-20-20 formula, and then judge by results. Having said that, if you've been up at 3 a.m. because you've lost your job, because you're just picking up on the energy of the world right now where there's so much fear, self-love, personal care requires that you rest, recover, and do what you need to do. And I think, you know, that's one of the things, I say this with great respect, but when I read the books or see people saying you must be like a robot and follow a morning routine or a nightly ritual or whatever your best habits are, I believe there must be room for the hard seasons of life. You know, and here's what I would also say is my ego, because a bad day for the ego is a great day for the soul. My ego says, Robin, you're not being productive. You're not on your A game. You're not a warrior. But you know what I've realized? I might not be creatively productive according to the definition of society during those cycles or seasons of suffering. But am I not spiritually productive? Am I not emotionally productive? I mean, when does a human being crack the shell of the ego that covers their hearts and learns the human virtues? Nelson Mandela learned how to be Nelson Mandela in his Robben Island season. You know, I would say the 20-20-20 formula is minimum viable morning routine. And you're a biohacker, I'm a biohacker, I'm a productivity hacker, I'm a life hacker. And so I would say, do what's right for you. You know, it's like this whole field of personal mastery and leadership that we inhabit. I'm not one to say you must do this, because we all have different learning types. We're all on different journeys. I think we have to find the morning routine that works best for us. When I was a kid, I wasn't believed in by a lot of people. I had a different way of seeing the world. I was very sensitive, creative. I didn't fit in with the cool crowd. And in grade 5, I had a history teacher, and her name was Cora Greenaway. And she was one of the first people in my life who believed in me. All it takes is that one person who coincidentally shows up in our life. And maybe it's a book, maybe it's a podcast episode, to introduce us to a new frame of reference and a new way of living. It might even be, that's why I love reading so much. You know, it could be one idea in a 300-page book, and that idea opens you up to a new galaxy of possibility, and the hand that puts down the book is a fundamentally different hand. I mean, all it takes is one new insight to change the way you see the world.
Transformation is the most powerful word in any language, because without it, we don't develop, prosper, or grow. And if your company isn't transforming, it's dying. And the best way to control the future is to invent it. My life's work has been focused on creating innovative companies by building high-performance teams that challenge the status quo and empowering them to pursue opportunities and accomplish things they never imagined possible. I believe the team with the best people wins, and that diversity of thought is the catalyst for genius. Change is rarely easy. So when you set out to achieve transformational change of that magnitude, I found trust is the essential element. Whether it was in the 1980s growing GMF into the largest manufacturer of industrial robots, even to this day, or in the 1990s when Raz's breakthrough mechanical design software forever changed the way engineers work, or 20 years ago when Ariba invented B2B e-commerce to move business at light speed and whose network transacts $3.7 trillion per year, more than Amazon, eBay, and Alibaba combined. I've certainly learned that whenever you're starting companies from scratch, people have to trust you, they have to trust your product, they have to trust your processes, and they have to trust your company.
What's the life lesson? Like, what's the thing you'd want anyone who's kind of growing up right now to really hear from you?
I've been doing transformations my whole life, right? I can't do anything without kind of stirring up the pot. And I think the thing that I want to get across is the world needs more transformational leaders than ever before to deal with a fragmented world. You know, the rate of change is happening so much. We need principled leaders who can solve complex problems. And, you know, I think the only way to do that is to jump in water over your head, you know. You know, that's something I've been doing my whole life, because if trust is the most important word in any language, then change is the most powerful one, because without change, you don't develop, prosper, or grow. And in the business world, you're either changing or you're dying. And the best way to deal with the future is to invent it.
Trust is the basis of every relationship, whether it's business, personal, or otherwise. And you partner with people you trust, you do business with people you trust, you buy from people you trust, and you love people you trust.
And so it all boils down to trust. And if you think about it, you know, what's your most valuable asset if you're starting a company? Well, it's your trusted relationships. So what's one of the most important skills? It's building trust. And everything in the business world is divided by time. So the most important skill is how fast can you build trust?
So for those who are, you know, student, young professional, thinking, okay, I buy into this idea of trust, but how do I do, like on a Wednesday, how do I start to build trust? I show up to work tomorrow, what do I do to build trust? Like, what does that actually look like?
Yeah, well, first of all, you got to trust yourself. And, you know, that's, because you can't trust anybody else unless you trust yourself. And, you know, I found a way to build that trust is keep jumping in water over your head. You go into a new environment, go into a new company, something like that. So how do you build trust? Well, you do it one-on-one. And so the question is, can you build trust at a lunch? Can you do it at a dinner? And what I found, one of the things that works is you can't be afraid to be vulnerable. Because when you're vulnerable with somebody, about 95% of the time, they'll reciprocate in kind. And when both sides are vulnerable, that forms a connection.
My transformational journey has been at high velocity with diverse adventures every few years. By living on the edge, I've experienced plenty of adversity and lots of opportunities to learn from my failures. And if there's anything I've learned, that's when you learn the most. Each new chapter builds on the last one and involves the risk of jumping in water over your head. After a while, that adrenaline rush becomes so addicting that I can't imagine my life without it. I call it scary fun. To quote one of the greatest transformational leaders of our time, the biggest risk of all is that we stop taking risks at all.
You know, I've had the good fortune of living the American dream. And I feel really, really, really blessed. And so I think that was one of the things my parents, you know, obviously my drive comes from my upbringing, and it's about paying it forward and giving it back. And so if you look at the things, whether it's what I did in higher education or in the business world or in public service, it's all about that next generation. If you ask me, okay, so what would be your big legacy you want to leave behind? I think back of what my dad would always say about fatherhood. He goes, you never know if you're a good father until you see your children's children. So I would say, you know, it's all about my mentees. You never know if you're a good leader until you see your mentees, because you're teaching them how to cascade that down. And I've had some great mentors in my life. You know, there's a genealogy out here in Silicon Valley, because this stuff's not written in a book, right? So you learn from the previous guy. My mom would always say the best way to learn is OPE, other people's experience. She would always say the best way to learn is from your mistakes. She goes, learn from other people's mistakes. You have time enough to make your own, right?
It's not graduating from Harvard that matters. It is the ambition and drive. If you were a 17-year-old and you decided, I'm going to apply to Columbia, Harvard, Yale, whether you get it or not, you have ambition and drive, and that's what takes you forward. There are lots of different opportunities, but you got to try to find these new fields, these new things which are emerging. Now, here's the good news, right? According to futurist Peter Diamandis, between 2022 and 2026, the world will see as much change as between the year 1900 to 2000. In 4 years, we're going to see as much change as between the years 1900 to 2000. New technologies, new opportunities, new things are going to emerge. The whole field of Web3 is emerging right now. And this means there's going to be so much opportunity for disruption. But if you're an entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur, it's good news, because there's going to be so much change and so much opportunity for you to disrupt the established players. Don't glorify this stupid attitude. I got to strike it out on my own. I got to be an entrepreneur. It's okay to have a job as long as you're learning, you're growing, you love what you're doing, and especially if you're young, a good job is really powerful because you're going to learn so much. So you really want to ensure that the companies that you join are companies that are going to be investing in educating you, that your managers care about your growth, that the company gives you, a budget to invest in books, in online courses, and so on. Every time you have a massive failure, there's a spark of wisdom in there, like waiting to be discovered. And if you can take that and inject it into your business, you become stronger because of it. Don't quit your day job. You gotta make sure that you have income, that you have safety, that you have food on the table. Don't get desperate and don't put yourself under that stress. When I was working on my day job, it still gave me 2 hours a night to work on my side hustle. And of course I had the weekends, right? You might have to sacrifice evenings. You might have to spend less time on Instagram or Netflix. You might have less weekend time. If you can dedicate yourself, and if you can ensure that you're constantly learning and learning and learning, odds are you're going to be successful. I decided I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to work for anyone. And so for 1 year, I tried to launch business ideas, and I failed and failed and failed and failed and failed again until I blew through all my money and I had nothing left. And then the economy tanked, the dot-com bubble burst. So this was 2002. Like millions of people were laid off. And then September 11 hit. So it was a devastating time. And that's how I ended up broken and on a couch, not able to afford rent. It was a stupid situation. And then I wised up and I realized, look, why do I have this stupid hang up about getting a job? Maybe if I find the right job and someone who can help me learn and grow, I'll be better off. And I was lucky. I did find a job, and I found a really great mentor who taught me marketing and sales. Now, I was an engineer. Engineers build things, but engineers often look down on sales and marketing. And this is why all my other ideas had failed. I had great ideas for tech. I didn't know how to sell it. And so I found a job with a great mentor. I learned about marketing and sales. And the next idea I launched 2 years later was Mindvalley. But I knew how to position it, how to market it. So I would tell myself, don't wait to know what your company is going to be about before registering your company. I had no idea what the company was going to be about. But I knew I was going to start a company, and I knew the first clue is that we were going to be selling a meditation product on AdWords, but there could be other things we were doing as well. I had a Web 2.0 software application that I was going to build and sell as well, and I needed a name. And so I got online and I found two really good names. One was called Rainbridge, and the other one was Mindvalley. I am so glad I picked Mindvalley over Rainbridge. And so I created this company called Mindvalley, and then Mindvalley launched several products. One of our early products was actually, and it's so painful that this product failed, it was an early version of what today would be Instagram. We called it Blink Life. It was a way to take pictures from a phone and then share these pictures with your friends. Interesting statistic, 40% of the success of the company is timing. Our timing was too early. Like, phones didn't have cameras. Cameras were not really good. This was 2005 when we attempted to launch Blink Life, and it very rapidly fizzled out and died. But we kept testing and trying and testing and innovating. And I kept experimenting with different ideas. And eventually, one idea really started exploding, and that was basically selling meditation online. And that's how Mindvalley started. The first thing is you must put your personal growth first, okay? So you must take your meditation practice, your personal growth, your reading, your gym. That must come number one. It must be more important than your business. And you got to spend around an hour a day. Now, if you can't, half an hour a day works, but you got to spend at least half an hour a day dedicating yourself to exercise, meditation, spiritual growth. As you grow, your business will grow. Now, this advice doesn't come from me. This advice comes from Sri Kumar Rao, the great MBA professor at Kellogg and London Business School. And he says the biggest thing that MBA students are not being taught is that their life shouldn't be about their business. Rather, their life should be about their personal growth. Their business is nothing more than the greatest vehicle for that growth. Your business, in short, is like a gym. It teaches you leadership. It teaches you perseverance. It teaches you stress resilience. It teaches you how to plan. But it is not you. You are you. Your personal growth is what should be number one. Your business is just a vehicle. Rao says if your business gets to $1 billion, it doesn't matter. The question is, did you grow? If your business fails, it doesn't matter. The question is, did you grow? Now, when you take that attitude, you become far more successful as an entrepreneur, far more successful in business. I cannot tell you the number of businesses I've had that have failed. I shared one, the early version of Instagram, that was so painful, but I learned from it. And it gave me the wisdom to go on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And so when you focus on your personal growth, what happens is that even if a business fails, even if an idea fails, you emerge from it with new knowledge, new data points, a new version of yourself that can do better on the next idea or the next business. That's rule number one. The second rule is a rule called unity. It means see yourself as a part of a larger whole, of a larger human species. Do not cheat, do not manipulate, go into all relationships with a win-win attitude, never take advantage of people, create products that deliver true value and are not just sold by salesiness. So the unity rule is a key driving force in how I operate everything in my life. I have no enemies, I have no ill will towards anyone, and I practice forgiveness every single day. I forgive every person, everything, everyone that has wronged me. Forgiveness is actually a superpower. Studies have shown that when you practice radical forgiveness, your life seems to get luckier. Your health improves, your peace of mind goes up, your sleep gets better. And so the unity rule is a key piece of that. It is the idea that unity is one of the most powerful value systems anyone can have. We've almost gone bankrupt like at least 3 times. But these type of moments, they are soul crushing. They keep you up at night. But you gotta be prepared to go through them on your journey. But again, if you adopt the attitude that the number one thing is your growth, is how much you're learning, you're better able to go through these ups and these downs. Like the ups don't go to your head, and the downs don't destroy you. Well, so firstly, the word entrepreneur is a bull term, right? It's one of the most overused nonsense terms out there. I can teach anybody to become an entrepreneur in 2 minutes flat. All you got to do is go to Fiverr.com, open an account, and offer to make videos or images for someone. Boom, you're self-employed, you're an entrepreneur. It's a bull term. You have that, and then you have at the end of the spectrum, probably the greatest living entrepreneur today, Elon Musk. But the spectrum is so wide, it's a bad definition. So there are other definitions that you got to look at, right? You got to look at, are you working in a job where you can earn the money you need to live the life you want while being fulfilled and happy doing the work you do? I think that is the definition. You don't have to be an entrepreneur for that. Many of the people creating the biggest changes in the world are not entrepreneurs. Think about the engineers at NASA. Think about the people who are inventing new technologies. Think about the people who come up with new medicines that are changing lives. Many of these people are working for companies, but they are paid well, they love their jobs, they're making a contribution to humanity. And it is enough if you're that. This bullshit idea that you got to be working for yourself is so outdated. Rather, you got to look at three things. Number one, can I exercise what I'm really good at doing? Number two, do I love what I'm doing? Number three, am I making money doing this?
Until this room redefines success into waking up in the morning and being happy versus money, we will be in a bad place. Think about two core things, in my opinion. One, you have to, at all costs, not beat your own self up with yourself. At all costs. It's huge. Yeah. You need to really be your own biggest fan instead of critiquing everything. Number two, moments in time. You've got to wrap your head around how young you actually are. You have to wrap your head around how early in the process this is and how this is just a very small moment in time. 400 trillion to 1. I just want everybody to hear this. This is the reason I'm happy 24/7, 365 for the rest of my life. 400 trillion to 1. The odds of becoming a human being. You might not like the human being situation you ended up in, but let me tell you this. Your mom might have grabbed another glass of wine and you never would have been. I mean, 400 trillion to 1. I've never seen anything that scares me as much as sitting with somebody in their 80s or 90s who spends all their time talking to me and not what they did, but what they wish they did. And in that, there's something that I think can really work here, and here's what I mean by that. I believe that if everybody in this room had a better relationship with understanding time, they could be much happier. I feel like people are grossly impatient. I don't think that people that are 55 years old realize they have 20 more years of executing in a world where they grew up as kids and 55 seems so old and people were dying at a different age and retiring at a different age. I think if you actually saw regret up close and personal for one day, that a lot of the things that you're not doing, that it could scare you into doing it. I live a life already where people email me on a tactical level the regret that they wish they listened to me around this, that, or the other thing 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. You know, it's funny. It's really hard to ask a giraffe to be a penguin or vice versa. And so one thing that has become much more obvious to me as I've gotten older is like, wow, DNA is powerful. Like, I'm so comfortable with no and losing and fear, but I'm so empathetic to people that aren't. And this will surprise a lot of you that maybe follow me, I'm unbelievably comfortable with aggressiveness and candor and binary talk on stage, but one-on-one, I've really struggled over the last 25 years as an executive with radical candor and shooting it straight because I'm so optimistic and I'm always trying to fix it. And so that's taken me a lot of work. And through that work, I'm like, okay, there's the things that come natural and there are things that aren't. If you grew up in a framework with parents or customs that really desperately overvalue outside affirmation, the opinions of your parents' parents or siblings, because you come from let's call it what it is, an immigrant background where there's a huge commonality there. School, you were so deeply bought into school that the short-term affirmation of every 90 days with grades and report cards made you comfortable. It's very hard to then go into, hey, this is what you should learn from entrepreneur land. Like, don't worry about it, it's all gonna be fine. That's very hard. You've fully built yourself as an animal to completely value outside judgment that is not based on the market, but based on another human being. That's what I'd like people to learn, which is like, hey, like, what are we doing here? You've won the 400 trillion to 1 lottery of being a human being. Do you really wanna live with regret? Like, do you not understand that the internet is the greatest optionality in the history of mankind? That our grandparents and everybody behind them had nowhere close to the options you sit with today? And really, like, what are you valuing that's making you conform into doing something that doesn't make you happy? Your current overhead? So sell your home and rent. That sounds crazy. When I started talking about like, hey, in the pursuit of happiness, would you consider selling your home and renting? I got destroyed in the comments sections and a lot of the play, like that I'm some horrible person. I'm like, how is living your life to pay the bills that you've created for yourself? That's all that humans do are create their own jails and then live within it. That's all we do. So knowing that that's very hard in a human way, the situation you have with your parents, all that stuff, the professional one feels like I have a prayer of communicating that and letting people, and here's my point. If you want to be a professional skier, or if you want to start a blog or podcast around cooking, my big thing is, if you jump and start swimming, this is riding a bike, kissing a boy or girl, or swimming. It seems super scary until you do it, and then you just laugh about why it felt so scary. Like, if you go do that thing and live more humble, live with judgment, you could always get a job again. Like, I don't know, my great fear is regret. Because it is the obvious thing I see in people that are 80 to 100 years old that seems super scary. Nobody was thrilled that they played it safe. You don't see it. And I think people should spend more time with 80 to 100 year olds that aren't their grandparents. I mean it. I think people need context on life a little bit. I think people have a horrible relationship with time. Do you know how many people in this room are scared shitless of 30? Like it's something, it means nothing. But our society has decided to tell you that you have to figure it out and marry and children, and what are you talking about? 98% of the 59-year-olds I know don't have it figured out. The hell are we supposed to have it all figured out at 30, 25? Like, people are making terrible decisions, getting married because they think they're supposed to by this age. Like buying homes because they think they're supposed, like the rules of modern society have led to, everybody wants to blame technology, and drug companies for, all our problems. We need to blame our norms, our expectations, our ridiculous North Stars that make no sense. We're living, when I look at this young of a crowd, they're living to 110. There's an enormous amount of people in here that are gonna live to 110 and are freaking out that they don't have it figured out by 30. You're not even a quarter of the way there yet.